Garage, presented to you by 937 Football, where we're covering college football in Dayton and the surrounding areas. You can check us out at 937footballinsider.com and then on Twitter at 937footballinsider. I'm your host, Jason Ward, with 937 Football. I got James Ryder with me, reporter from WHIO TV, Channel 7 Dayton. Jared Luganbill, scout for Red Zone, Ohio. And then I have Tom Adams, who's the offensive coordinator at Northmont, has been coaching high school football in the 937 for the last 47 years. Today we're filming at Third Perk Coffeehouse and Wine Bar, located at 146 East 3rd Street in Dayton, Ohio. Other locations they have are at the Dayton Mall and Gym City Market. Some of the coffee that they have here is named after famous people here in Dayton. The Dunbar, and my favorite is the Zap. So you can come here in the morning and get your coffee, and then come here after work for happy hour. All right, today on the show, we're going to be talking about the NCAA transfer portal. This has been a big topic over the last couple of years that it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. So let's get started with it. All right, so Jared, can you tell us exactly what the transfer portal is?
So the transfer portal is a group of kids basically that decided they want to transfer, and transfers have been a thing for many years. However, the NCAA changed the rules regarding it and have allowed student athletes one move unencumbered to another school for whatever reason that they like to transfer. And so what that really has done has changed the dynamics of the transfer portal, and basically there's been a trickle-down effect, and so what has happened as your top dog schools, your blue blood schools, your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Michigans, all of those schools are going to basically get first dibs of all these players, and then you're going to have your second tier of schools and your third tier of schools basically are going to fight over the leftovers. And so what's happening really is, on the same of those schools becoming interested in players, you're going to have players that come from a lower level of a MAC school or Division II school that really break out within their college careers and are able to get the attention of those Ohio States, those Cincinnatis, of the levels above them. And so what you're seeing is an Ohio State might go after a Bowling Green kid that breaks out, and that Bowling Green now has an opening and needs a kid, and so now they're looking at another lower D1 program, and then that lower D1 program is now looking Division II to replace their slot that is now open. And so that's basically what it's doing, is creating filling holes rather that high school kids in the past would have filled, but aren't any longer because they're being filled through the transfer portal. And it's not something you're going to build a culture or a whole team on, but it's something a coach can easily go in and say, I need a quarterback, I need a defensive tackle, and they can address that issue. And because of the cloud of some schools, or because of the situation at some schools with the coaches that are there, it's advantageous for those kids to go there. And so it's really created a dynamic with recruiting of kids not getting early offers, for one, and two, maybe even not getting offers. Maybe they have to go the Division II route, try to make their mark there, and then hope that they can transfer that or parlay that into a Division I offer.
Yeah. So the portal was created in 2018. You can always transfer, college football wise, but since 2018, they created the transfer portal.
Which means they don't have to sit out a year.
Yeah, they don't have to sit out a year. That's basically what it is. It's just stopping them from sitting out a year. That rule came in spring of 2021. So, James, what are your feelings about the transfer portal?
I think it's not as easy as one thing or the other, because it's so many different situations for kids where maybe you have a kid that's at an Ohio State and Alabama that can't get on the field. They're a good player, but they can't get on the field. But, hey, you can transfer and you can get playing time at a Bowling Green, a Ball State in Ohio, things like that. But I think we've seen so many success stories out of it. Most recently, Jamison Williams. He was a wide receiver at Ohio State, barely sees the field, goes to Alabama, and he is literally the best wide receiver in all of college football in that. So there's so many examples like that where this is a great thing, and this kid helped make himself so much money because this is in place. The problem that you're also seeing, though, are people constantly thinking that the grass is always greener on the other side. So we see it in basketball and football where, hey, all of these kids are in the portal, but they don't all have a place that they're going to land. Is you think, hey, I'm going to leave Bowling Green and maybe a bigger school is going to want me. Well, maybe they don't. And then now you don't have a spot. And it's hard. So it's such a double-edged sword because there's so many positives about it, but then we see the downside of it of kids that think that they can go somewhere and there's nothing for them.
Yeah. So it's almost how I look at it is it's almost like the minor leagues of, having, FCS, your D2, your JUCOs, D3s. It's almost like being in the minor league and then, those guys jump into the portal just to get into a D1 FBS school. So, Tom, so tell me about how do you feel like it's affecting high school football?
In my mind, my opinion, not in a positive way. There's going to be kids that colleges would have recruited and signed that will now not get signed because they don't want to take the time to have to develop them when they can pull a kid out of the portal. I think that's a real problem. The other problem is there's no time constraints on the portal. You're going to see a bunch of kids jump in the portal right after the regular season, and then you're going to see a bunch of kids jump in the portal after spring. And one of the things that a lot of football coaches from my research want to do is they want to constrain the time to maybe a 2-week period where they can jump in the portal and that's it. You look at last season and how the portal has hurt high school kids. Say most colleges might have 20, 25 scholarships available a year. Well, if they sign 11 out of the portal, now you've got 11 less high school kids you can sign. So like somebody mentioned, it's a trickle-down effect. Now those kids that didn't get signed, they got to look for maybe non-Power 5 schools, and then they sign there, and those kids that would have signed there got to go down to D2, so it's a trickle-down effect. It's affecting everything in college football. Look at some of the bowl games last year. Texas A&M bowed out of their bowl game because they lost so many kids in the portal they couldn't play. LSU still played, but they played in their bowl game with 40 kids. They lost a bunch of kids in the portal. So it's affecting everything about college football. And like I said, from my research, the college football coaches, for the most part, particularly the Power 5 guys, want to see something done about it.
All right. Jerry, you want to chime in on that one?
No, I mean I think Coach is absolutely right on that from a perspective of high school football, and I think James was totally right from perspective of college football and how kids can improve their opportunities, and from the other side of it, coaches are able to leave at any point they want and go take a job and leave the other kids out to dry. So why shouldn't the kid be able to do the same? And so,
I think that's what started it all.
Yeah,
I really believe that's what started it all.
That's what the coaches leaving. Yep. So, like Deion Sanders said this year, he's over at Jackson State. He said he was only taking 5 to 7 high school kids this year. I was hearing that there were maybe some MAC schools that were only taking 3 to 4 kids out of the portal. So,
and the other point I want to make is they're allowed to transfer without sitting out, and they say that they get one time to transfer, but a graduate can transfer too.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 times you can transfer, and that's hurting high school kids too.
It is. Yeah. That most definitely is. So you have kids that are out here that have the talent of maybe an FBS kid, maybe getting overlooked or whatnot. They're gonna fall. So I always tell kids, if you have an offer from a school that you like, you better take that.
Take it.
You better take it right now. Don't wait, because I've seen kids that waited and lost scholarships, and right now they're coming far few in between right now. So if you get an offer from a school that you really like, you better take it. So James, how do you think it's affecting the FCS, D2, D3, JUCO?
I don't think, and I think because of the COVID year, I think that that's really kind of messed some things up too. We haven't really seen that impact, but there are plenty of guys out there that would be great examples for this. Could have been a huge impact. Trey Lance, you look at North Dakota State, he would have been a guy that absolutely situation plays out a little bit different. Maybe he goes and plays a year. And we're seeing some of these guys that really, really thrive at the FCS level that then transfer and find a place. And some of them have success. You look at maybe guys that have gone to Oregon or other schools like that where some of them have some success. Maybe it's middling success. But I think for the most part, when we look at the FCS level especially, they do such a good job for the good programs of building that culture that the kids want to be around. And they understand as well, you can go to North Dakota State and go to the NFL. You don't have to leave to go somewhere else. We did see Jabril Cox, North Dakota State, transfer to LSU, and that was an example of a guy I thought he was going to be, he was very good, but I thought he was going to be a little bit better. And it's hard, though, to all of a sudden go to a different scheme, different coaching, and thrive in that first year. So I think we're still seeing spots where guys are picking and choosing those lower levels, but there are several. I think what's exciting are some of the examples, whether it's a quarterback at a D2 level, that all of a sudden, hey, you have SEC teams, you have Big Ten teams that want you. So we haven't really seen that full trickle-down effect, for me at least, but I think that a lot of the kids that are going to go to the FCS route, the vast majority of them are going to just stay there. Now, what you might see with the portal is what we see at the FBS level of maybe I'm at, an FCS school and I'm going to transfer to another FCS school. Mm-hmm. Again, maybe you're at a Jacksonville State and I'm not getting the playing time I want, so you're going to move and go to like a Campbell or something like that. So I think we're still seeing a little bit of that movement, but it's not as rapid as what we're seeing at the FBS level, at least.
Yeah. So I just pulled up. It was FCS teams that are most active in the transfer portal. This is off of NCAA.com, and you have the Alabama A&M had 28 kids, transfer.
Moses Douglas.
Yeah, Moses Douglas. Yep, from Springfield. Southern Illinois 20, Jackson State 12. They're really pulling kids out of the portal. And I'm looking at it, and I'm just wondering, are kids going to take, the FCS offer, knowing that they're only going to be there for 1 year, just to hop into the portal and find a way into an FBS? Well, what do you think about that, Tom?
Yeah, I think they're going to take those offers. Yeah. I mean, like James said, there's a lot of FCS kids that play at that level that are still going to play in the NFL. And if they get a chance to play any Division I football, Power 5, FCS, I think they're going to take it. Yeah.
You want to chime in on that?
I mean, I think we have to realize, and I tell high school kids all the time, that if you're good enough, they're going to find you. It's the same way with the NFL. If you're good enough, they're going to find you. And I think a lot of times, and why I think, other than just your playing time issues and things like that the portal is so big, is a lot of times kids commit to coaches. They don't commit to the school. And so when you have those coaching changes happen, that's when you can tend to see things rise up as far as kids entering the portal. In your FBSs or FCSs rather, a lot of times those coaches are there for a longer tenure. There's not as much movement in that. And so I think a kid can take that offer knowing, I can probably play for this coach for 4 years. It's not this coach is going to leave and try to, move on to his next job. So
that's a great point. And again, from some of the research I did, the number one reason kids jump in the portal is that reason, because the coach is leaving. And they committed to that coach, not to the program, but to that coach, the guy that recruited them. Yeah. They committed to that coach. I read a story about a guy that left Kentucky. I can't remember where he went, but he's transferring back to Kentucky because they changed their style of offense. So now he's using this portal to go back to Kentucky. Right.
So I actually think the D1 or bust mentality is really what's pushing the portal, pushing a lot of kids in there. So there's great FCS schools, D2, D3 schools. We had spoke about it earlier. It's probably only about 10 schools that can win a national title, so the rest of them are like fillers. So, if you took would you rather go play for a no-name bowl game or play for a national championship in the FCS or D2?
Well, I mean, this is the way I look at it. I want to play.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if the team's not any good. I want to get on the field and I want to play personally because, granted, if you could, guarantee me a national championship, maybe I'd feel a little bit different. But, I want to get on the field, and I think that that's one thing that, sometimes you think, oh, hey, I'm going to go to Ohio State, I'm going to go to Alabama, and, I'm good. But you forget that there's 20 other guys that are just like you, best player in the city, that are going to those schools, and you can miss out on that opportunity to play. And if you're good, you're going to get on the field. And for me, that's what I would want. Is I want to go to a place where I can play, and in a place that I like. That would be what I want.
But one of the problems I got with that, being a coach, is guys don't wait their turn to play anymore. I mean, it's instant gratification. If I don't get on the field the first 2 or 3 games in my freshman year, I'm leaving. Why? I mean, it never used to be like that, and football was really good back when, too. Kids are not willing to wait and be developed to get their chance to play. It's instant gratification. I ain't playing, I'm leaving. I don't like the coach, I'm leaving. You yell at me at practice, I'm leaving. I mean, it's
Absolutely. And here's the reality. Your 2%ers are your Ohio State kids. There's 98% others. I have kids all the time. Coach, how do I get recruited? And I start off with, are you starting for your high school team? If you're not good enough to start for your own high school team, you're not going to Ohio State. You're not going to Bowling Green. You're not going to Findlay. It doesn't matter. You got to stick it out, and you got to, as Coach said, be developed and be coachable and make your way that way.
Yeah, so I think some kids are afraid of competition, and you win championships through competition.
Absolutely.
Who was that? Urban Meyer went down to Cincinnati, and he recruited, Sam Hubbard. And he recruited him based off of what was it? They were playing dodgeball, and his motor was better than everybody else. This guy's running around, diving, and everything. And Urban Meyer wanted that guy because he competed. So I agree with you. I feel like it's a competition thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the thing is again, there's examples of everything. Like Mac Jones is the poster child for you go, you wait your turn, you develop, and you're a first-round pick. Granted, that's not everybody. Not everybody's going to fall into that. And I think what's hard is you have to have a real conversation with yourself because there are too many kids that do not get that instant gratification, and so they're jumping into the transfer portal. But there's also sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, I'm not going to be able to play here. So that it's a little bit of both because we do see some of the kids that they jump way too early.
Let's not forget, too, that 40% of those kids in the portal don't find another place to play.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They jump in there and they don't find a place to play.
Yeah.
So with that D1 bust mentality, you have kids. It's like, I want to go to Ohio State. Okay, Ohio State offers you, and then you have 5 running backs, there that are just as good as you, like you mentioned earlier. There was a story I heard Alvin Kamara. He was talking about he was over at Alabama, and just think about who was the other running backs in that room,
They had that was an unbelievable running back room. Yeah. When you look back at it, obviously you had Derrick Henry as part of that. Alty Tenpenny, who ultimately people probably don't know, but there were so many guys that they actually had in that class. I think it was 4 running backs that were in the top 10 of that running back class, all in the same recruiting class. Yeah. They were part of it, and I think part of with Kamara is he actually kind of got into the doghouse a little bit early too. And if you're in Saban's doghouse, it's a tough place to get out of. But yeah, I mean, he was really good and he would have played, but at the same time, he was with guys that were really, really, really good.
Yeah, he said he went in there and he thought he was the man, and he got there and everybody's the man at Alabama. Yeah. So he said, you look up, he said, all those guys that was in our running back room are in the NFL right now. So I think that's another reason why guys are going into the portal, just because they get there, they have high expectations, and they get there, they can't compete with the other guys, so they're going to go run and try to look at another school. So,
part of that is coming out of high school. What are your expectations and what are your goals? I mean, are your goals to simply start on a football team, or are your goals just to be on the football team? But ultimately, your football career only lasts so long. So what are your goals for life? What are your goals for academics? What are your goals for what kind of person you want to be? You know, I think as parents, we get so fixated on the athletic side of things and trying to plan out their life of how they're going to be a D1 college football player that we forget about what do you want to be when you're done playing football. And so I think those expectations and that pressure to be whatever you think you should be in football sometimes just start to run crazy, and you forget about some of the things that are really important.
That's a great point. Ryan Day came into Northmont to recruit, and I just happened to be in the film room when he came in. And I asked him, I said, what's your impression of the transfer portal? And without hesitation, his answer was, it's a joke. And I said, why do you say that? He says, because we call these kids student athletes, and the portal is all about athletes and no student. What happens to these kids when they're done playing football? That was his whole point. And you're absolutely correct about that.
I think some of those expectations may come from home as well. You know, you may have parents or, you know, dads that are, you know, huge football fans, and, you know, they want them to, you know, go play at a higher level or whatnot, and that may be hurting kids. So you'll know, you know, before your senior year that if you're a D1 athlete or not. You'll know. The colleges, they know who you are. They if you can play football, they're going to find you.
Yeah, and I honestly think it's part of an overall, when we were talking about the playoff and there's 10 teams that can win a national title, we've become so obsessed as a society with these elite programs that I think that's part of the trickle down is, you know, maybe you have friends that say, oh, well, you should definitely be playing in the Big Ten. And so then you take that, and that's how we get that D1 or bust. And it's not just D1 or bust, it's big time, you know, it's Power 5 program or bust. And we become so obsessed with the national championship chase that we kind of miss out, I think, as a society on all of these other schools. And you forget, you know, we think about coaches and going to that right fit is, yeah, you're still going here, but you're learning lessons. You're developing as a person. You know, I went to Ball State. You look at the kids that go there. There's a lot that are not going to go to the NFL or go beyond. So sometimes we get lost in the sense that maybe this is a really good school or a really good fit for, you know, the next 40 years of your life and can help you in these different ways. So I think that it's we can say that maybe like at home we have that, but at the same time, I think, you know, our overall perspective of college football can kind of get into your mind a little bit that, hey, you know, I have to go to Minnesota or I have to go to Penn State or I have to go to Ohio State so I can get on TV here and I'm going to be on SportsCenter.
Yeah. So I think it's also kids, they're not doing their research about some of the schools that are actually recruiting them. There's tons of players in the NFL that come out of the MAC. You know, come out of the MAC. There's running backs. If you're a running back, and I would go to Toledo. You know, Toledo puts out running backs, you know, into the NFL. You know, there's tons. I just think that they're not doing the research to see, you know, the footsteps they could take or the steps they could take to get into the league. If that's what they're doing. So, and also, I think a lot of the kids, they're not even thinking about, in my personal opinion, they're not even thinking about the education at first. You know, they're thinking about playing football. You know, I want to play football at a high level. They're not even, hey, you ask a lot of them, hey, what do you want to major in? Business. You know, they'll just say business. Oh, what kind of business? I don't know. So I think that's more education that needs to be put that way that, hey, only this certain amount of people are actually going to make it into the NFL. You know, only this certain amount of people actually get to play college football. So I think a lot of them really need to understand that they're going to college to play college football, but to get an education as well.
And I think we get that with just regular students too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at any high school, and a lot of kids are going to say, I want to go to Ohio State. Why? Because they've got a really good football team. That's a lot of fun, and you're not necessarily – I mean, there's plenty that do think about the education, but I think as a whole, you know, when you're thinking about, oh, where am I going to go to school, you're probably thinking about going to a Power 5 D1 school because they've got football and basketball and it's fun and it's exciting. And then you'll figure out what you want to do there. Some people know what they want to do, but it is hard, especially when you're 17, 18 years old. Yeah. I remember when I was looking at schools, I had that same problem, and then you really start to look at it in a different way. So I think overall, it's not just football players; it's just almost being a kid.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of kids really realize that you want to go to Ohio State, but you need to have at least a 3.5 or higher just to get on the main campus. They don't even realize that. Yeah. Unless you playing football, you need a 3.5 or higher to get on that campus. So you're gonna be on one of those satellite campuses, But the degree still says Ohio State. So with the portal, let's talk about what are the pros and cons. Are there any pros?
Oh yeah.
Tom,
like James brought up. You got that kid that, he might play at Miami University here in Oxford, and he's a really, really good quarterback, and he gets a shot to play in the Big Ten, and it might lead to an NFL career. I mean, there's definitely some positives, but in my mind, as a coach, as a high school coach, I don't see it equaling out positive and negative. I think there's more negatives to it, and I think college football coaches are starting to see more negatives to it too, because they want it changed. They want things to change.
Yeah. So, all right, Jared. So let me ask you this: do you think the NIL is affecting the portal? Because, kids. You get kids who are maybe at a FCS school, and they're not. They can get some local stuff. Mm-hmm. But if they can get to an Ohio State, they can get the big sponsors.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we've seen that yet. I think the NIL stuff is more your initial recruitment, your top 5 or 10 players in a class. The Texas kid that just went to Ohio State that transferred out already. I think that's where you're going to see LSU, I believe, Texas A&M brought in a bunch of players on NIL deals. I think that's where you're going to see more of that. I think when you get to a level and you excel at a level, your immediate thought is, I want to go to another level. So I don't think a kid from Bowling Green maybe necessarily is thinking, I want to go to Ohio State to get an NIL deal. I think it's because they believe they can play at the highest level. Just my personal opinion, but
you ask about the pros and cons. This transfer portal, in my mind, is year-round free agency for college football. Yeah. It's year-round free agency. There's going to be Power 5 programs that are going to hire scouting departments, just like the NFL does. They're going to have a scouting department for who you play. They're going to have a scouting department, guys in another department, scouting department, that are going to scout from what they hear on the street about who wants to leave and who can we grab in the portal. So they're going to hire more people. Right. It's year-round free agency, which doesn't belong, in my mind, in college football.
Yeah. So, James, you
want to? Well, I think we're going to see that, but you're going to see it at the big schools. And I kind of laugh because Nick Saban said that when all of this was happening is, do we want to make this a thing? Because guess what? He goes out and grabs Jameson Williams, Eli Ricks this year, Gibbs from Georgia Tech. They're going to go and get the best of the best. But you're going to see the rich will get richer in the sense that Ohio State and Alabama, they can afford to have, whether it's analysts or coaches or support staff, go out and monitor, hey, who might be leaving, who could we get, who just entered the portal, and we're going to jump on that immediately. I mean, there's literally coaches right now whose job it is every day to check the portal. Right. Who's in the portal, and we're going to check this. So you are going to see that, but at the same time, you're not going to see that at a MAC school. They're going to have to, kind of play catch-up of, oh, hey, this kid's here. Maybe we can get them here. It's definitely going to create that bigger divide. And we're seeing it, but everything that's happening right now is the gap is just getting bigger.
Agreed.
I guess one of the pros, from a high school perspective, would be that I had a Division I recruiting coordinator outright tell me that one of the positives of the transfer portal is that there's less kids getting lied to. There's not a reason to mislead a kid into coming into your school unless, again, they're a 2%er, and it's better to get them on campus and convince them to stay than to not be in on them in the first place. But, your more average Division I players are not there's no reason to try to mislead them into getting on campus. So I guess if I had to try to look from a high school perspective and say, this is a good thing out of it, I guess that would probably be one of my main.
Yeah. So it looks like now it's the way recruiting works now. It's transfer portal, JUCO, then high school, or maybe prep before high school. I'm not even sure. But James, what do you
Well,
think?
as I say, I think it depends so much on the program. You pulled up the FCS stats.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about the transfer portal is it is a way to get very mature and basically be good immediately in a year. So if you're a coach that, hey man, we really need to get this season to be good, you're going to put an emphasis on getting some of those transfer players. So you're not you don't have to develop those kids. And then you're going to have some programs that don't want the portal except for maybe one or two kids because you do want to develop and build that culture. So we're seeing it just depends on what is your philosophy is building a program. Are you trying to develop these kids and get all of them better and hope that you can keep them around if they get very good? Or is it, hey, maybe we need that instant gratification, so we're going to take a swing on getting a whole, and we see it in basketball, we see it in football where, hey, you're going to bring in 20 kids because you know what? Those seniors are probably going to do more for you than getting 20 freshmen because their bodies are more developed.
I actually looked up some D2 rosters, and there were a lot of transfers from D1 down to D2, portal-wise. So I think it's what you said earlier. You get a lot of guys that's in the portal that never find a home. Those guys they're going down to D2. So it's a great conversation about the portal, but we got to keep it moving.
Hi guys, this is Juanita Michelle, your favorite Perky barista at Third Perk Coffeehouse and Wine Bar. We're located at 146 East 3rd Street in beautiful downtown Dayton. You can also visit us at Third Perk Express at the Gym City Market. Come in and we'll promise the perk of your day.
So what we're going to talk about next is players that we really like in the area. So Dayton is really rich with history of football players. We had I posted something on my Twitter about the best players that, who's the best player you ever seen in the area, and it was tons of guys, and especially I didn't even know that they were from Dayton. So let's talk about some players that you're really high on, Jared.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Reggie Powers. He is a defensive back from Centerville. He's 2024, I believe, meaning he'll be a junior this coming fall. And he's one thing college coaches really love is versatility. They want to be able to fill as many positions at one time as they can. So if I get a kid that I believe can play cornerback and safety, that does more for me than just a kid that can play cornerback or play safety. But Reggie is a kid that he's a kid that flies around. He's probably about 5'11", 6 foot, 180 pounds. He's a guy you can blitz off the edge. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that can turn and run with wide receivers. He's a football player too. And so, one thing that really jumped out on film was the way he could blitz and attack the quarterback out of pass defense sets. And you got to be able to defend the pass in 2022. And he's a kid that can be used in different positions in same formations and sets. So he's a kid that I really like.
Yeah, I watched Reggie's film, and the first thing I noticed is Reggie's going to come up and hit you. He's going to bring the wood. So that's a great kid. I think he maybe translates to a safety in college, but that kid can play. Going into his junior year.
Yes.
Yeah, going into his junior year. So who else you got on there?
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay. So I also like Terrell Lewis is a guy from Wayne, 2025. So he'll be a sophomore this year. Got his feet wet at Wayne at quarterback. Love his throwing motion. The kid's got a cannon and just real down to earth kid. Sometimes quarterbacks, I think they know it all from the beginning. Terrell's a kid that just wants to be coached, and athletically, he's a kid that not only can he throw the ball, he can make things happen out of structure. Play breaks down, defense blitzed their linebacker. He scrambles. He's always looking downfield. He's not just looking to run the ball. He's looking to make the play on the throw, on the run. So he's a kid that I really like coming into this sophomore season to really start to take off. It's so much to play quarterback, even at the high school level, just to get the amount of just cerebralness in the pocket, but just knowing what's my first read, what's my second read when you got things coming at you, and so I really expect him to take a jump this sophomore year.
All right, James, what do you got?
Well, one of the guys that just absolutely, lights it up. You turn on the tape, and it's just wow every single time. Jackson McGowan at Miamisburg. Is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver? I don't care. He is just so phenomenal. I think about his games, and it's like, okay, well, which tape do you want to turn on? It's like, which one? Because there's going to be an amazing catch in every single one of them. Yeah. I still remember one of his one-handed catches, and I asked him like, what was the reaction in film room when that happened? And they're like, oh, it was pretty mild because he does that every single day in practice. And then it's like, that's halfway through the year, and then it keeps going. I mean, we look at what Miamisburg did with Springfield, and Jackson McGowan was a huge part of that. I mean, he can just make unbelievable catch after unbelievable catch. And it's not just, I can high point it. He can tap the toes, reach out of bounds, the Santonio Holmes type of catch. He can just make so many plays, and it's just there's not many guys that you just watch at play that position, and it is just wow. Yeah. Every single game is wow.
So he's about 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah, he's got good size. Played basketball this year as well. Can leap. I mean, that's the thing as well. Is like he's tall, he's long, and he has a very good vertical leap and pretty good speed as well.
Yeah, he committed to Cincinnati this year, so I think UC is doing a great job of recruiting, especially the Dayton area, because there's a lot of kids from here that are committed to UC. Who else you got?
It's funny when we think about wow plays and some of those splash plays. Another guy that I really like is Anthony Brown at Springfield. That dude he can take the top off of defense. He can, get those yards after catch. So maybe you get those underneath plays. He can go and create, and you just watch. Springfield was such an exceptional team this past year, and he was such a big part of that. And it's hard because everybody on that team was good. There's nobody that you would point to and say, oh, well, that's not one heck of a player. So he definitely benefited from people being able to focus on some other guys, but he just continued to make plays, and especially in the late part of that season, he really started to come on and come into his own. And I can't wait to see. I mean, when you look at what he's done and the fact that you expect him to only get better, he could just be absolutely amazing for Springfield this coming season. Yeah,
he was committed to Minnesota. He decommitted, right? Or did he?
Yes.
He decommitted, right? He decommitted from there. I don't know. Yeah, did he?
Well, that's one thing. We talk about the transfer portal.
Yeah.
It's so hard with high school football is how many times you see a kid commit, decommit, recommit, or go back to the same school. And sometimes it's the school. They just stop recruiting somebody for whatever reason, and sometimes it's the kid.
Or through the coaching grapevine, he opened back up, hoping to get an offer from Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, he visited Ohio State not too long ago. I saw him. He posted out on Twitter. So, I get it. So. How about you, Tom? Who do you have?
Well, I'll mention a couple kids from Northmont. I didn't coach there last year, but speaking of young quarterbacks, we got one at Northmont named Deuce Courtner, who I think is a true dual threat quarterback. Yeah. Now, he wasn't used quite like that last year, but my plans for him this year was to use him like that. The kid's got a strong arm. He's very fundamentally sound when he throws the football. Kid can run. He's out running track for his second year, and he can run. He's tough as nails. I think he's going to be a true dual threat, and by the time he's all said and done, I think he's going to be one of the best that's ever played in Northmont. Now, he went down to EKU's camp as a freshman and got an offer.
Yeah, that's big.
So he's quite an athlete. The other kid I want to mention, other two kids, is Nigel Glover. Nigel Glover is
He's a big kid.
he's a hybrid kid, yeah. He's a outside linebacker, safety type kid that'll come downhill and hit you. He can run. He can cover people one-on-one. He's smart, athletic, good athlete. He plays baseball too. He couldn't this year because he had to have wrist surgery, but he's a phenomenal athlete. Got a lot of Power 5 offers already.
Yeah.
I think people see him as a strong safety type of kid.
Yeah.
And he reminds me a lot of Justin Jacobs that played at Northmont. He's almost a clone of Justin.
Yeah.
And Justin's having a pretty good career at Iowa. And then Javian Brownlee, wide receiver at Northmont. Man, the kid's he's phenomenal. He runs great routes, got really good speed, really good hands, understands the wide receiver position, will block. He's an all-around wide receiver, and he's starting to heat up with the offers too. So there's three pretty good kids there at Northmont right now.
Yeah, actually, Nigel Glover just committed to Northwestern
Did
today.
he?
Yeah,
Well,
he committed to Northwestern today.
Tony said that's where he wanted to go. He's always had a dream of going there. I think his dad, somebody in the family, was pro Northwestern. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. It's actually hard to get in that school. That's a
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very,
That's-
very prestigious school.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing about
Yeah.
Nigel. He's a really good student. All three of those kids are really good students.
Yeah. So one of the kids that I like is Evan Tankestyle from Wayne, and I turned this film on, and this man is pancaking everybody. Like, I'm seeing heads snap back. I think he kind of got overlooked a little bit because he got Padilla out there who was going to Ohio State, and then the year before they had was Emil Wagner. This guy can flat out play football. He's 6'4", 285 pounds. He committed to University of Cincinnati, and I know he has two little brothers that's coming up through the pipeline that may be better athletes than him from what I'm hearing. So that's one of the kids that I like. And the another one I like is Javion Norman from Springfield. I went and saw this kid play at in the state championship game, and that kid is all over the place. He's a middle linebacker, but he's so fast, like you can't stop him. He's blitzing off all through the place. The AB gaps, you can't stop him. So I know you faced him this year, right, Tom?
Oh yeah. He, if I remember correctly, looking at the stats of the kids coming back next year, he had like 50 or more tackles more than anybody else in the GWO coming back this year.
Yeah.
The kid is so fast. He's so fast as a linebacker, you can't block him. You can't get on him.
Yeah.
And he comes downhill. He'll knock your lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a phenomenal football player.
Yeah. So let's talk about under the radar. Let's see, who do you got under the radar?
Yeah, so under the radar, Nesta Owens, Chaminade Julienne. He kind of reminds me of a Graham who was he plays for the Eagles and was up at Michigan, but he's not. He's probably 6 foot, maybe 6'1" on a good day.
Yeah.
But I know he's added some lean muscle this offseason, but really a twitchy kid. And he's a kid who, coming off the edge, is going to stand up to a strong tackle in the run game, but also is twitchy enough that he can get to the edge and make some problems for opposing quarterbacks. And so I think he had 9.5 sacks this last year, missed a couple games with COVID, I guess he said. So really interested to see how things shake out for Nesta.
Yeah, he actually is. He's a beast off that edge. Like he has a good power rush, coming off that edge, and he's a problem. So I'm trying to figure out, is he really under the radar? That this thing,
Yeah.
that kid can play. Yeah,
fair.
that kid can play. I just think that he's just being overlooked, man.
Yeah.
So how about you, James?
So, I know we spent so much time talking about D1 kids and who's going to college and where, but somebody that I was thoroughly impressed with this past season was Luke Benitez, the quarterback at Bellbrook.
Yeah.
He's a sophomore. He's going to be a junior. You talk about somebody that is just mature emotionally in every way. I was absolutely blown away when I got to talk to him. And, the style of offense they run, he is important. We saw how much better they got as he started to get more comfortable. He's not the focal point of that running offense, but just kind of watching how he carries himself and what he does, he's one of those guys that you can't help but be fascinated to root for and follow. So I think when we talk about under the radar, I mean, how about a quarterback that's running, a run offense where it's not a lot of quarterback keep, it's a lot of handing it off, and he might throw the ball 4 times a game, and you go 2 for 4 for 75 yards and a touchdown. But I just think so much value is there with how do you lead your team, what's your level of maturity. I mean, when I talked to him, I had to be like, wait, you're a sophomore in high school? And I mean, he's more mature than people that are in their 20s or older. It's just amazing to see him, and I can't wait to see how he develops as a player and just throughout the rest of the season for Bellbrook and his career.
How about you, John?
I think my under the radar guy is a guy that I had the pleasure of coaching last year at Springboro. A kid named Evan Russo. Evan played quarterback his whole career, junior high, freshman, and was a backup quarterback for us going into this year. But we didn't have a bona fide tailback, and we knew he could run, so we said, hey, let's give Evan a shot at tailback. The kid rushed for almost 1,000 yards this year, made first team All-League, and is one of the toughest pound-for-pound kids I've ever coached. He will take a hit and get up and laugh at you. I mean, he's just tough. You tell him to get in the A-gap and stay in the A-gap till you can't, he'll stay in it longer than that. I mean, he's just that type of kid. And he's a great kid. He works hard in the weight room. He's the off-season captain for Springboro this year. Works his butt off in the weight room. Strong, very good grades, 3.5 and higher. I mean, he's a super athlete, quick. I think if he has now, they'll probably move him back to quarterback this year. But he's gonna have a lot of touches, and he's gonna be tough to deal with.
So my under the radar guy is a kid from Xenia. His name is Tremel Wright, and he's 5'11", 175. Doesn't have any offers right now, I don't think. But when you watch this guy's film, he can flat out fly. He plays receiver, he plays defensive back, and this kid is all over the field. I see him playing defensive back in college, but this kid is definitely a Power 5 kid. I just think they had a coaching change there last year. I think, maybe Coach Mo's a good guy. He came over from Chaminade Julienne over there, so he's getting that program, together. But this kid can flat out ball. Any of you guys ever seen him play? You seen him?
Yeah, I saw him on film.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He's a nice player.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about games now. What game are you looking forward to seeing this year?
Yeah, so I'm really interested in the Centerville Wayne game. Both of these teams are seeing some turnover. Centerville obviously losing Chase Harrison and Cam Smith, probably most prolific pass duo in Centerville history, if not the G-Walk. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they turn that offensive over. They have a running back who's going to be a senior, Emable Wakalongo. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, James. That was a mouthful. I think they're really going to, Coach Horry's going to turn and start to lean a little more on the run game. But defensively, you want guys that can stop the pass, and they got those in spades with Reggie, who we already talked about, with Dang, who's a cornerback, real long. I think he's 6'2", smooth athlete. Yeah,
real smooth.
And then you got J.J. Lewis, Gene Lewis off the edge. Sometimes when they move him around a lot, and so they're going to be a team that's going to look to stop the pass. And Wayne, on the other hand, is going to look to pass with Terrell Lewis. I spoke about R.J. Mukes, Tion Hunter's a sophomore this year, who's I think going to have a big season too. And so I think it's just an interesting. Their strengths align really, really well. So I think it's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah. How about you, James?
Well, I want to talk about that Centerville Wayne game. I think the thing is with that game, I think Wayne's going to run the ball because that's where they're going to match up well against Centerville. I don't think the pass game is going to be successful for Wayne, but when you look at that offensive line and the guys that can tote the rock, Wayne is one of those teams, and I think that they kind of found that last year. There were times where they just said, we're going to maul you, good luck stopping it.
Yeah.
And they did that so successfully, and I think that's what's really going to line up. So
That's exactly what they did to us the second half last year. We were winning the game at halftime.
Wayne offensive line is just ridiculous.
you lose a kid that's going to Notre Dame, and you still don't really miss a beat.
We went in the locker room and said, if they decide to run the ball in the second half, we're in trouble. Well, they decided to run the ball in the second half. And it was
And your point, James, they did that against Centerville last year. So, point well taken.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's I always love the chess matches. What's this that you build off of this? So I think we saw it a year ago, and it's like, what are the wrinkles that each team's going to throw at you? But that one, I mean, that's always circled on the calendar. Even if Centerville's down or Wayne's down, I love that game. It is one of the best. You talk to people from Centerville, you talk to people from Wayne, and it's like, do you want to win one game all year? And that's the one that they always talk about. It is developed into such a good rivalry. One rival for Centerville is Fairmont. That's always a big one, but Fairmont starts the season with one of the best games in all of the Miami Valley. Yeah. Fairmont Alter is so good. And for so long, Alter just dominated. And I think people forget how good this game is. The thing that I love about some of these games, Centerville Wayne falls into that category, is what's the community like? Right. What is that buzz in the stadium around? I don't care, is this going to be the closest game in the world? Usually Alter Fairmont's been really, really good the last few years, and the fact that you've seen the teams go back and forth of Alter's won some, and Fairmont's now getting those wins, and you look at the style of coaching from both of those teams, I mean, it's like the nicest knockdown, drag-out fight you could ever find. It's not necessarily a backyard brawl, but it's a front yard brawl, and I just love that rivalry. It's so good, and you start the season with it. Yep. I mean, week one, there is never a bigger game than that one.
So, Alter, they're reloading, or you're saying they're reloading because they just lost C.J. Hicks, who went on to go into Ohio State. And, I know Dom Sykes going to have those kids ready. He's going to have them ready. But Fairmont they have a D lineman over there, Dalton Gusweiler. He's a 6'5", 275 kid, and he's a monster. He has a bunch of D1 offers right now, and then they have a running back over there that's really good. I think he broke Fairmont's rushing record last year. He's a under the radar kid as well. So, how about you, Tom? Who you got? What game?
Well, probably the game that going back to Northmont as a coach, probably looking forward to the most is Northmont and Miamisburg.
Yeah.
That's going to be this year. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. There's going to be a lot of athletes on that field. McGowan, Christian Davis, Brownlee, Nigel Glover, Deuce. We got a kid named Dalen Wilkins that's getting recruited. I mean, there's going to be a lot of athletes on the field. Now, the offensive lines and the defensive lines for each team, I think Miamisburg might have a slight edge on us because we're going to be kind of young up there. And they got A.J. Sally back and some other guys, but I think that game is going to be determined by athletes. Yeah. And I think whenever you go to a game, you sit in the stands and you want to watch a good high school game, you want to see those athletes perform.
And the coaching matchup as well. I mean, you look at that and you talk about guys that know how to utilize their athletes. I mean, that's going to be the exciting part.
Besides that, Tony used to be on Lance's staff at Northmont, and Tony's now the head coach, and Lance is now the head coach at Miamisburg. So there's a little bit of a grudge there. We're all really good friends, coaching staff, but you don't want to lose to those guys. Definitely don't want to lose to them. But I think it's going to be a really, really fun game to watch if you're a spectator.
So the game I'm looking forward to is Trotwood Springfield. Now, you talk about athletes. Yeah. Now that game is full of athletes. Trotwood's coming off a kind of say a down year, but they have a ton of kids coming back. They were really young. I think they're going to be really good this year. They have a quarterback named Tim Carpenter, 6'4", 200-pound guy. I think he just got his third star. I think he's got his third star. 2024 kid. They got a Mike Smith, DB over there. They got a linebacker over there I really like named Isaiah Evans. Springfield, coached by Mo Doug. He always has kids. He has the Norman kid I just talked about, Aaron Scott, and Anthony Brown. They have kids all over the place. So I think, and they just got Bryce Schondelmeyer at quarterback. Just transferred from Arcanum. He was Arcanum's what, D5, D4? D5. He was D5 Player of the Year, and now he's going to Springfield. So I kind of want to see that. Like, they're gonna have that's gonna be an air show. So yeah, it's gonna be a good game.
One thing about Mo Doug's kids, and this goes for camps even in the summer, is they play with an edge.
Yeah.
They are not afraid to come up and hit you. And Trotwood I've always viewed kind of in the same sense. And so, yes, it may be an aerial assault game, but although Trotwood's done a lot of ground and pound over the years too, but that's going to be a very hard hitting game. And like you spoke, Trotwood was so young last year, so young. And, sometimes you just can't overcome that youth, but a lot of promise and a lot of talent there.
Yeah, tons of talent over there. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about the youth. That was, I think, one of probably the most shocking things of last season, was Trotwood being as down as they were. And I kept trying to tell people, because I was asking people, like, what's going on here? And everyone said the same thing. It is just youth. And you see it so often in high school football. I'd rather have a kid that's a junior or senior that's less talented than a freshman or a sophomore, because your bodies are just different, your maturity is just different. So Trotwood, I think when we look at a year ago, they were either 1 year away or good luck in 2023, because that is going to be the return of Trotwood.
Didn't they get a late start last year?
They had some COVID games.
Yeah, I think I don't think they
as
played
well.
until maybe week 4 or 5.
Yeah.
First game.
Yeah, I think Springfield, was their first game.
They had some issues over there.
Yeah.
But they got some
that didn't
athletes.
help. Oh yeah.
I think they'll be contending for another state title, maybe 2024. I see it. I see what they have over there, and it's good. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming out today and sitting out here and talking high school football. I want to thank Third Perk Coffeehouse and Wine Bar for allowing us to film here, and I look to seeing you guys again. You're always welcome to come here and talk football. It's a great thing. If you're interested in learning more or seeing the actual transfer portal, you can go to my website at 937footballinsider.com, click under links, and there's an actual link for the transfer portal on there. Also, you guys can check us out on YouTube under 937 Football, and again, follow us on Facebook at 937FB Insider. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.